Tapes! Look at all these. I love it. Everything from Betacam all the way to DVCam. Now, trust me, one day I really will get to these, but I do not have the money or the equipment to do so right now. Look at how big this thing is. Isn't that amazing? This down here, and yeah, there, that one, that's an original beta size cassette that got changed, obviously, to meet the Betacam formats. I think it's starting to become apparent that I have a problem. But look at all these. They make me so happy. Something about physical, rotating, analog media just makes me so happy. The ironic thing about this is that every single one of these formats that you're seeing here, including this one down here, which is an audio cassette, is digital. For some reason, we had this amazing fascination with recording digital media onto physical tape. Not sure why we did that, but here we are. I'm excited for this one because I finally get to show you guys the real difference in how you used to view these when you were a kid versus how you can view them now. The difference really isn't all that big in terms of time because you could have viewed these like this back then, like I'm going to show you. The problem is it was either really expensive to do so, and most people didn't have the means. Remember, we're talking about digital stuff here, so we need a real way to view ones and zeros. So it can get a little convoluted, and there's really three main ways to go about this. One, which is the easiest, can be viewing it over Composite. Second easiest would be to view it over S-Video. Those are the two primary ones that I really want to show you today. But my third favorite, at least in the analog world, is Component. We're going to get to that. But that is without a doubt the best way to view these if you don't have a digital way to do so, like Firewire or SDI, which, let's be honest, most people don't. All this to say that I'm going to show you how you probably used to watch these videos when you were a kid straight off of your camcorder. We're not going to use the 1500 today. Nope, we're going to pretend like this is 2005 again, where all you have is your camcorder. I'm going to show you how you used to view them and how you can do it today and have a way better viewing experience. So I'm going to clean all this up. Let's pull the camera out and start talking about the tape. All right, now that that's all back upstairs, the camera itself. So let's pretend for a second that this is your bog standard, like actual camcorder that you would have had when you were a kid, or your parents probably would have had. This is going to perform exactly the same way. Nothing I show you is going to be different. The connections are the same. The tape is the same. Nothing is going to be at a point to where you're like, oh, I can't do this with mine. Yes, you can. Don't worry. The tape we're using today is actually the Artemis II launch that I was down in Titusville for, and I think it's perfect because it shows a lot of different coloring at a high zoom rate, which this is best at. Most of these things are, and a lot of single color background because of the sky and the clouds. It's really going to strain some of the more limited video formats like Composite. So before we actually get to looking at the footage differences, let's discuss how we're going to be connecting them. The original way that you are most familiar with is going to be RCA. These things, the red, white, and yellow cables. This is Composite. All of the video information, the chroma, the luma, and the sync goes through this one cable. And then there's these. Component. Component came along much later, and it split all the video signals that were all combined into one on the Composite side into 3 different cables. This cleaned the video signal up immensely, and this is what I'm most excited to show you about today. So back to Composite, let's talk about how it connects to the camera. Likely what you have, if you still have one at all, is a proprietary jack that had a single port that goes into your camera because it's so small, it can't fit all of these into one, and then it would break out into these different colored cables. How this camera works, because it's this, is it'll input all of these, rather output, each one of them specifically. The audio is going to split between left and right and come out of these 2 jacks down here. You notice though, there's no yellow output jack for the video. There is, it's just broadcast style. Down in the front here, you'll see two B and C connectors. One of them is labeled monitor. Monitor would have gone to a separate video screen inside the van to look as if it was a preview to see if you got kind of the color settings and the white balance and the brightness and the focusing all correct. It was useful to have. I wish I did, or at least a good way to use it. Now, to put this through to this monitor behind me, we're going to put it through a converter because we really don't have a choice. And to do that, I'm going to be using this cheap piece of crap HDMI analog to digital converter. Why do I think this is a good idea? It's because it's all anybody has these days. If you were going to view this through Composite on a TV that's 25, 30 years old, that would be one thing. You could get away with it and it would look half decent. The problem is that modern TVs don't know what to do with these displays or this signal, so it turns really crummy. And it doesn't matter if it's built into the TV or if it's this. It's just going to look like trash. So the reason I'm using it is because it's representative of what you're going to be seeing today if you were to just pull the video off of these. The inputs are direct from the camera and it's going to go into this box directly into this monitor. Nothing else. Component's going to be a little weird. This particular camera doesn't output component. Kind of. What I mean by that is that there's no direct SDI out or component jacks to talk directly to a monitor from this camera. The way it does this is over FireWire, which we've talked about extensively before. The other option would have been this 26-pin barrel connector on the back that would have talked directly to a videotape recorder or VTR. I don't have that option because this cable is like $250 for 30 feet. So that's neat. And this is where everything that could have gone wrong did. Hi, it's 2 weeks later, and I'm about to tell you the tale of misery and despair. 480i. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would come across a format so unbelievably befitting of being buried 6 feet in the dirt. My problems arose when I started to try and figure out a way to record component, which I thought I had narrowed down pretty easily. I realized it's a stupid idea to try and hold a camera in front of two monitors side by side to try and show you the difference, when in reality I could just screen record them and have a way better comparison for you. In hindsight, duh. So that introduced this thing. This was its own unbelievable headache. And the problem I was running into it was it would record Composite just fine, but the second that I tried and feed it S-Video, and I know that's a completely side tangent that I'm going on now, it completely oversaturated the video, and I couldn't correct it in a way that it would make me happy, because the idea here is to show you the raw footage, because that's what I want you to see. So, then came the converter itself. While it was getting here, I decided to test a couple of things. Number one, how it ran through the VTR and how it didn't. So, turns out that when you run component through the VTR, it comes across awful on a monitor. For one, the monitor that I had it plugged into didn't work because it didn't accept the 15 kilohertz signal like my old monitor did, which was literally the same thing, just one generation back. Thank you, Omen. So after I got that sorted out, I decided to test it on a TV instead. That worked beautifully. It looked fantastic. The image was correct. Then I tried Composite, which was only 30 frames a second coming out of the camera, which again in hindsight makes complete sense. That's what I was trying to show you. But when I tried running Composite out on this, it looked wonderful, almost identical to Component, which I was fighting mentally for probably 2 days until I finally realized this thing is a VTR. Its whole purpose in life is to take a signal and convert it the best it can into broadcast quality, even if it's composite. This thing has a proper onboard deinterlacer that does the job of handling composite video correctly. But when the component converter got here, it only came across to the screen capture card in 30 frames, which was driving me nuts Because I have an OSSC, like I mentioned. It should be one of the best converters on the planet. And then I realized what I was fighting the entire time. Composite needs deinterlacing. Component also does, but it's not treated the same way. When a component signal comes across to a converter or a TV, it is frame doubled. That's my problem here. So whenever I would try and capture to my computer via component, via the cheap one or the expensive one, the converter box, it would only come across as 30 frames because there was no way to deinterlace it. The closest I got was to be able to activate Bob deinterlacing, which is like, it's a trick, it's a hack, it's not real. So in order to have one that's proper and come across, it has to go through a TV, which has the proper onboard components. Funny joke. Has the proper onboard components to be able to show the frame rate correctly. This can take care of that, but only if the signal goes to something that's expecting it. A converter box, and as much as I want to say it, the OSSC does not properly translate. 480i was never meant to be handled on computers. It just wasn't. At the time of its conception, it was never designed to have somebody screw around with a couple of buttons on an SoC, so it was never properly adopted to be able to talk to something like that. 480i expects components like this, which are much later in its generation in terms of its adoption into analog television at the time. And when you talk about broadcast video quality and editing, it's expecting this. It's expecting these kinds of machines. It's not expecting modern day PCs and computers. That sort of technology was not mature yet at any point in time that it would have been relevant. The bottom line here is that the reason I'm complaining is the exact reason that I'm making this video. Because I want you to see the real thing. And it's just difficult. Period. So, what I did was took the composite out of the camera, which is representative of what you and I would see nowadays if we just plugged it into a modern TV or a crappy HDMI converter. That part didn't change. But because the component was so difficult and there was no good way for me to capture it, that was the problem here, was the capturing. I don't know if I made that part clear. The capturing was the difficult part, not the playback. The playback was easy, but obviously my eyes are not something that you can see. So that's what I was fighting the whole time. So what I did instead was I cheated a little bit. I took the raw AVI file directly off the camera, and that's what I'm going to show you. If you look at them side by side, even with a little bit of Bob deinterlacing on the component side, like if I were to throw up the component video onto a monitor that can accept it, i.e., actually, no, it is this one. This is a good one. And you put the AVI file on a screen and the component side by side, they are identical. There is no real way to tell them apart. It's just, this format was designed around components, so it makes sense that viewing the AVI really doesn't gain you anything because it was designed around analog. That's the whole crux of this situation we're in. So, with that headache finally out of the way, let's start comparing the results. Okay. First, let's take a look at composite. The first thing I want you to notice is the second that it tries to introduce heavy contrast. Whites to blacks, blacks to whites, heavy greens to heavy reds, heavy blues to heavy reds, that sort of thing. It struggles pretty difficult, and all the colors sort of blend together in this sort of rainbow type effect. Now, there's a proper term for this, which I don't remember here at the moment, but it was a known issue for composite that plagued it from the day of the format's conception. There were very few machines that could get around this at the time. The broadcast machines that I used for this, as an example, did pretty well, but not great for consumers. And the second you introduce crap to it and along the chain, it just turns it into a mess. Garbage in, garbage out, all that sort of stuff. Now let's take a look at Composite. The very first thing you're going to notice is an increase in frame rate. This is because when it's done correctly, Composite out of a proper source will be deinterlaced and properly shown as the 60 frames per second that it was always designed to be. Now, what's important about this is when you go back and you watch these tapes on original equipment, now what I mean by that is the televisions at the time, it will look just fine. But because modern TVs are the way that they are, it just won't treat Composite correctly. Composite, it will. So this looks like we have a doubling in our resolution when in reality it's just the deinterlacing occurring properly. Harsh contrasts are reduced and visible separating lines occur between solid objects, whereas before they were kind of all blurred together. Now take a look at the color difference as well. Nothing is really mushed together anymore. There is proper contrast. The hard part still occurs when you get to something like the ocean right here, and we're kind of zoomed in a little bit. We're still going to get some color separation here. That's just a limitation of this particular format, DV-Cam, because we're recording in 4.2.1, or no, it's 4.1.1, excuse me. Digital Betacam and even Betacam SX improved on this later, but this is handheld camcorder territory still speaking, so what you see will be the same. Now, I know that it took a while for me to get here, and I'll leave you with some footage of the actual launch itself because, well, let's be honest, it's just cool. But the reason that I went down this road and it took me so long to get to is because I wanted to be the one who went through the headache for you. I wanted you, just like all along, to be able to see from the very first video I ever made is to show you what you truly can get out of these old machines and your old camcorders. Cliches aside, I've said it before and I'll say it 1,000 more times before I end up in the dirt myself. This format can look so much better than what you remember it to. You probably never even realized just how well these videos can turn out because you just never had the means to. Composite was the only option we ever had when, 20, 30 years ago, when these camcorders were starting to become popular. This video will be completely pointless to just about everybody on the internet, but if you do care about this stuff and you truly do want to see your old memories in the best possible way, in ways you've never seen them before, this is how you do it. One last thing I want to highlight is how you would actually do this if you're a normal person. This took me an unholy amount of gear to be able to get done. Again, I was trying to capture it for you, so this won't be too hard for you. Let's say you have your camcorder. I mentioned this earlier, but I want to do it again just as a final thought so you don't forget. What you will likely have is a set of cables that factory came with your camera. If you don't have them, it sucks, but you could probably find them depending on how ubiquitous they are and how often your manufacturer put them on your camera. This cable plugs directly into a port on your camera and will break out into the red, white, and yellow cables for RCA, or a separate cable that will have them come out to the red, green, and blue jacks for Composite. From there, you plug your cables in and you're good to go. Probably the hardest thing about all this for you is finding a battery that's going to still work on these things. My old camcorder was shot. I'm lucky I still had the adapter that plugged into the wall because that's the only way I could get it to work. I know I made this sound kind of complicated, but that's because of what I was doing for you. This will not be an issue on your end. Hardest part's going to be finding the right hardware so that you can do this properly. Thank you for watching. I hope this helps, and let me know if it helps. Go find your cameras, go find your tapes. It's worth it, I promise.